Hello, my name is Shulamit, and I'm the creator of the MetaSounds process. Every Sunday at noon, I host a Zoom meeting for us to explore wisdom teachings and experience the healing power of MetaSounds. These meetings are made possible by generous donors. Please help this site thrive by liking and subscribing, and please join our newsletter at greatoctave.com to receive notices of our events. So, welcome everybody. Today I want to talk to you about karma. There's a big question philosophically, religiously, and in our own minds as to why. I think the way it's phrased biblically is, why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? And theologians and others, ordinary people, have been trying to answer that question for centuries, and they have come up with a variety of responses. One, of course, is that this is not the end of the story, that there's an afterlife in which there is heaven and hell. Another is that there, in fact, is no justice and no law, and that's just the way it is. So you can do whatever you want. Another is that our deeds and our thoughts create consequences, which we can call with the overarching name of karma. I mean, that's what karma is. Deeds and thoughts having consequences. And for those who don't understand what's going on, and that's like most of us, maybe all of us, we can look at the world and say there are no laws, so everything is random. But this is nonsense. There are laws. There are laws of gravity. There are laws of that we observe. I mean, for example, you drop a glass on the floor, it shatters. If you deprive a person of oxygen, they die. I mean, there are things that we know of as truths. We don't know for a fact whether we're going to come back in another form and pay for either our goodness in another life or our lack of goodness in another life. We don't know whether heaven and hell actually exists. These are not things that are given to us. I mean, people have had near-death experiences and have claimed to have seen what happens after death. I actually think they only have a glimpse of that because it's just the first few minutes. But nevertheless, without discussing all the big, heavy topics about why the wicked prosper, etc., and whether in fact they do prosper, and trying to sort out all the injustices of the world, of which there are numerous injustices, even with man's law, the question still remains, how can you be happy? How can you live your best life? Why should you discipline yourself in the way that you think and act? I mean, these are questions that I think many of us have answered because we see what a life that is lived without discipline and what it can lead to, and it's not very pretty. So we all, or not all, but many of us, most of us, assume a code of behavior, which we try to adhere to. Often we do this to conform to what is required of us, and conform to the laws and what we're taught about ethics and the nature of reality and God and so forth. But bringing it down to a very simple level, when you do a certain action, it has consequences. Sometimes those consequences are very small and occur right away. And sometimes they are not experienced for decades. We think that our thoughts are private and have no impact because we don't act on them. But in fact, they also have an impact on our reality, on how we treat people. Because beneath the conformism, beneath the behaving like other people expect us to behave, we have a lot of things that are going on: passions, hatreds, lusts, desires for vengeance. All kinds of things are happening beneath the surface of our lives. So why does it matter? Well, it matters in terms of happiness on a most basic level. If you behave as correctly, and you don't always know what correct is, but if you try to behave correctly, do not seek vengeance. Do not take every insult that is hurled to you as a reason to go to arms and to retaliate, to not speak ill of others, to behave in a kindly, decent fashion, to overcome your anger and be calm and consistent, leads to a better life, a more fulfilled life. Does it protect you against every bad thing? No. There is no such thing as being protected against every evil consequence. You can be a righteous person and really have terrible troubles in your life. There's no question about it, and I'm sure we know people like that. So it requires an attention to the way you behave and to the way you think. Thinking I'll get back at somebody for what they did to me, well, that could be just a random thought. It could be a petty thought. It could be not very important, but you should swat it away. You should swat it away like a fly. If you indulge it, it can lead you to do things that aren't in your best interests, let alone not in the best interests of the other person. Things that we say come back to haunt us. There's an old Yiddish expression, be careful when you're digging a hole for somebody else that you don't fall in yourself. And I think this is good advice. So a diligence, a hygiene about what you're thinking and what you're doing and how you're acting. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a saint. You don't have to say, I didn't feel the pain of that. You don't have to say, I'm not hurt. You don't have to lie to yourself or to anybody else. But you have to be aware of what you're doing. So you have a situation now with very polarized politics, and some people get so riled up they want to kill the person on the other side. This doesn't lead to a good outcome. So I am suggesting to you that if you understand the laws of karma, there are laws all around us, right? There are laws all around us. And there are laws of consequence. Each consequence breeds an effect, which breeds another consequence, and so forth. It goes on and on forever unless you sever that relationship between cause and effect. Cause breeds the effect breeds the cause, and so on down the line, going down generation after generation after generation after generation. And you have to say, the buck stops here. So if you come from an alcoholic family, the behaviors, the adaptive behaviors are passed down to the children who pass it down to their children and their children and their children and their children until somebody says stop. These are patterns in families. We have patterns in ourselves. So once you begin to understand this and try to discipline yourself against the pettiest of your behaviors and thoughts, things start to get better. Maybe you don't get so insulted by casual remarks. Maybe you see clearly enough to see that your way forward is not to get entangled with people who live on a very low level. Maybe you start bringing people into your life who are kinder, more decent, more caring, and things go better than being absorbed in your petty jealousies or fears or insults or whatever that your ego brings. It's pretty hard to thread the needle. Life is complicated, and there's no one rule for everything. But there is this rule that what you do has consequences. I got angry when I was a teenager, and I stormed out of a classroom, and I tripped, and I really hurt my ankle. It wasn't broken, so it took a long time to heal. And then 50 years later, I had problems with my ankle, the ankle that the rage made me hurt. Be careful of yourselves. This is a very critical time where we can't get away with the stuff that we used to get away with without seeing the mess that we make. There's a tremendous amount of mess that we make when we act speaking freely as if nothing that we say matters. So, in addition to the sounds, pay attention to what you think and what you feel. Do not, and your actions, of course. Try not to act out of anger. Try not to act impetuously. Try to think. Try to observe what it is that you're really doing, and thereby increase your chances for happiness, for helping your relationships, your intimate relationships, your family relationships, as well as your friend relationships. The reason why this is more important right now is because I'm talking about a spiritual, this is good practical advice, but if you're on a spiritual path of any type, you must get rid of these obstacles, which are primarily created by your own ego and your own head. To ascend spiritually, you have to be clear. It's like growing up and being a child who then becomes a teenager and can no longer bring the toys of their childhood with them because they'll be laughed at, right? You have to leave these behind. You're crossing the border into another layer of consciousness. And when you leave school and become a working adult, you have to leave behind some of the ideas and concepts you had as a teenager because they don't serve you anymore. They don't serve you anymore. You're in a different world. You're in a different level of consciousness. We can continue like that for a very, very long time and come up against the edge of the way that we used to live, the way that we used to think, the stories that we told ourselves about the nature of reality, the stories that we told ourselves about our lives and why they are the way we are, and so on. At a certain point, if you want to leave that behind and enter into a level of consciousness in which you see that you are connected to all things, in which you live in joy and abundance because you look around you and you feel the wonders of the world that you live in. And you're not absorbed with things that bring you down. To enter into that level of consciousness, which is it's a requirement now, because you're going there whether you like it or not. You're going to be tossed and turned, and the rug is going to be pulled out from under you, and the way that you've behaved in the past is not going to serve you or your communities or the world. You have to leave your baggage at the border and cross over into this new level of consciousness, and that takes training. Now, it's a natural process. And it happens to everybody if they don't stop, if they don't put their foot in the way of the door, if they don't refuse to grow up in a way. And you see that. There are a lot of old people who say, when I was young, everything was great. And the younger generation, they were all terrible and whatever. As compared to a spirit of an older person who is resilient, who is youthful, despite the wrinkles and despite the catastrophes of old age. This comes about because you have learned to give up stupid ideas. You have learned to accept the life that you were given with a degree of gratitude, because no matter how hard a life is, it sometimes brings great gifts along with it. So it's a discipline. The discipline is the sound meditation or another meditation if you choose, and the ability to observe yourself in the moment when you're about to say something foolish, do something foolish, act against your best interests, lash out against somebody. We're all human, and we all have this animal capacity to react to perceived threats in this way. But you're not an animal. You're a conscious being. So with compassion, you can stop yourself and look and see yourself caught in the moment, and not react, but respond. And again, it's not perfection we're looking for. We're looking for awareness. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to make sounds now. And of course, your job is to relax and receive. Thank you for joining me today and being part of our community. I invite you to join us every Sunday at noon Eastern Time for the full live experience. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Visit greatoctave.com for more details about these webcasts, our newsletter, donations, and more.